First, I just want to say thank you. I came to you by way of The Secret, and when I wanted to know more, my friend looked it up, and she called me and said, you have to be sitting down for this, and they have the same name as you. And I just felt tied to it, and it's made so much sense to me. And I want to ask the proverbial question. As I was going through life and thinking, what would I like to do next? My husband called from the other room and said, would you write down something for me? And I pulled a piece of paper out I'd used before, and it said, buy a lottery ticket. And I said, okay. And I've been doing that for 3 years, and I'm still not doing something right. And I'm just curious of all the practices and procedures and processes you've had. Which one works the best for something like that?
Well, what you're hearing us say these days to everyone who asks us any question is, go to the vortex and then. Go to the vortex and then. And the thing that's interesting is that when you're in the vortex, you already feel the ease of abundance. You feel the ease of well-being. And often when you feel that ease, then you don't feel an urgency to go buy a lottery ticket, because the knowledge that you hold about the odds and all of that just make it not feel like the next logical step. And if you're in the vortex, if you've been in there soaring and you get an impulse to go buy a lottery ticket, by all means do it. We're not suggesting that the vortex would not guide you to your abundance in that manner. It happens all the time. We're just saying most people, in fact, more than 99.99% of them who buy a lottery ticket are not in the vortex when they buy it. They buy it out of need. They buy it out of concern. As was the experience that you were talking about. In other words, so the action is really not important. But what this conversation brings up, and it's one of the reasons that we are eager to discuss it with you, is because this conversation about a lottery ticket brings up, the subject isn't about action or non-action, because there is plenty of action that will be inspired once you're in the vortex. We're talking about the timing of action. The timing. Do you get that? When you think about law of attraction, when we talk about creation, we want you to understand that creation isn't about defining that you want something and then putting your lasso out and capturing it and dragging it to you. What law of attraction means to creation is attraction. It is a rendezvousing with you and your desire. It's a rendezvousing, a vibrational at first and manifestational next, but it's a rendezvousing. So when you understand that you are rendezvousing, you are rendezvousing with what? Rendezvousing with an idea at first. Rendezvousing. This is important and new. First, rendezvousing with an emotion. Rendezvousing with the feeling of fulfillment. Rendezvousing with the feeling of the vortex. That's your first point of rendezvous, and it's the most important part, and it's the part that you have complete control over that almost none of you exercise. You could rendezvous, you could emotionally align with your vortex right now as soon as you stop the long line of but what about this, but what about this, but what about this, but what about this. As soon as you stop the but what about this and the well don't forget this and the, as soon as you stop that, you have the opportunity to begin first rendezvousing emotionally. The next rendezvous that occurs is a thought rendezvous, because the thought is at the basis of all creation. And so you start rendezvousing with thoughts. The other day, Jerry and Esther were meditating, and for years they've meditated with the intention of quieting their mind. But this new meditation that we're teaching them is about syncing with some music that is syncing their breath with the music. In other words, it's a rendezvousing, it's a syncing. And what both of them discovered after a couple of months now of reaching this place of meditation is that they're rendezvousing with thoughts. Now, formerly, in their idea of meditation, we were always teaching them, quiet your mind, because we were teaching that meditation is the way to release resistance. But the next step in an effective meditation is, once you've released resistance, if you will stay there longer in that state of non-resistance, you will begin rendezvousing with thought. The idea, so first you rendezvous with emotion, then you begin rendezvousing with thought. So they came out of this meditation a day or two ago, and Jerry said to Esther, were you thinking? And Esther said, yes. Were you? And Jerry said, yes, and it was delicious. And Esther said, I know. And then Jerry began telling her what he'd been thinking about, and they were not on the same subject, but both of them were having absolutely blissful, life-giving thoughts. They were rendezvousing with ideas, suggestions, things that I might do, things that had happened before. In other words, they were rendezvousing with pure, positive energy thought. It was so delicious that Esther said, let's push the button and go again. In other words, let's just stay there. Let's hold ourselves as long as we can in this state of rendezvousing with these wonderful thoughts. And what we want you to realize is, the more you do that and the more you practice the vibration of that rendezvousing, first with the emotion that feels good and then with the thoughts, the pleasing thoughts that come, this is the state of being that then causes you to, outside of your meditation, but still inside the vortex, walk around your world still in the state of rendezvousing, but now the rendezvousing moves beyond the emotional sphere and beyond the mental sphere, beyond the vibrational sphere, and now you meet someone who says something, you pick up a book that says something. In other words, that's that trail lighting up that we were talking about. You become a cooperative component by practicing this vibration of ease with all of the things that are in your vortex. Now, you see what's happened to most of you, and this is a good thing, but really worth talking about. You created your vortex. Do you get that? Every single thing that is in the vortex, every vibrational piece of it, you put there a piece at a time. And because you put it there a piece at a time, you're not very good at describing it or seeing the big picture of it, because you put it there incrementally over a long period of time. So when you get into your vortex, you're not going to visually see anything. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see what's in there until you acclimate to it. Jerry and Esther loved taking walks through beautiful places. And as they travel the nation, they are frequently looking for a park or a sometimes public and sometimes just something out in the wild where they can just walk and enjoy. And they've noticed repeatedly that when they first walk into the forest or onto the nature trail, that no one else is there. They almost always choose places where there are not other people. But by no one else, we mean no little critters, no squirrels, no chipmunks, no birds. It's like they're in there all alone for the first minutes, 2 or 3 or 4. And then they begin to breathe. They begin to acknowledge. They begin to harmonize with their environment through their appreciation of this and this and this and this and this. And then Jerry usually says, I'm beginning to smell the forest now, are you? Because it takes a little while to become vibrationally aligned with where they are. And then all the little critters begin to come out and say, hello, we know you. Hello, we know you. Hello, we know you. They were in the State Beach Park in Virginia Beach. And And they stopped in the ranger's office, and they saw a sign on the wall that had a picture of the elusive silver gray fox. And Esther said to the ranger, "Will we see him?" And the ranger said, "I've never seen him. That's why it says elusive." So Jerry and Esther start down the trail, start breathing and basking, and they were not in the park 10 minutes. They turned the corner, and the elusive silver gray fox met them on the trail. And he looked at them and said, "I'm glad you're here." And they looked at him and said, "Oh my God, it's the elusive silver gray fox!" And he ran away. So getting into the vortex requires that sort of acclimating too, doesn't it? In other words, getting in there and being comfortable with it and being familiar with it and being stable in it, being stable in it, being stable in it long enough, being stable in it that you make it your own, that it's your own vibration. And then you have an idea, then you have an impulse. And when the impulse to go somewhere, the impulse to call a friend, because you never know. You see, the universe is leading you down the path of least resistance, which is another way of saying down the path of most allowance. So once you acclimate to your vortex, the universe will yield to you. Ideas will begin to occur to you, and the idea won't take you necessarily right to the money, or even necessarily right to the lottery ticket, but it will take you to something that 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 will take you to something. It will take you to something that will take you to something. The next logical step, the next logical step, the next logical step, and the next logical step. The reason we're using the word logical is the next logical step is not just what you want, it's what you're willing to allow. So the universe knows exactly where you are. The source within you knows exactly where you are in relationship to what you're asking for, and will lead you to the next logical step and the next logical step and the next logical step. You just have to trust that you're being led to the next logical step, and stop trying to define what you think the next logical step is. Stop trying to define what the lottery numbers are or where the lottery winning ticket will be. In other words, stop trying to do that. That's information that will cause the vortex to spit you out. When you ask questions to which you don't know answers, the vortex spits you out. Stop doing that. Just relax with the things you do know. I do know, as our friend said earlier, I do know that well-being is mine. I do know that the universe is looking out for me. I do know that law of attraction works. I do know that my vortex exists. I do know that this vibrational reality exists. I do know that I've lived a lot of life and I've put a lot in there. I do have faith that what I want is coming. I do. In other words, these are the in the vortex kind of general statements that you can make all day and stay in the vortex. Can't you? Couldn't you get in the vortex and affirm things like, my vortex is my own, and stay in? Couldn't you stay in the vortex by saying, things I want are here, and even though I can't see them, I know that they are here? Couldn't you still stay there? Wouldn't you be able to still stay in the vortex by saying things like, well-being is mine, and my life is getting better and better, and I really like this deliberate creation stuff, and I'm glad I have emotions, and I like paying attention to the way I feel, and it's fun to feel my way in, and I like to come here frequently and hang around. I like getting a vibrational grasp of my life. I like knowing that I'm the creator of my experience. I like getting better and better at this every day. Aren't you still in the vortex? In other words, but when you say, and now I need to go purchase a winning lottery ticket, if it's not the next logical step for you, out you go, you see. So we think you've helped us to really make a strong, good point here about get into the vortex and then get into the vortex and then.
And